Welcome to the 2017-2018 Performance Recreation, Traditional Recreation, and Competitive Special Recreation Athlete Scoring Presentation. We will be covering scoring updates and division expectations for this season. Team Epic consists of the following brands: ACDA, American All-Star, Champion Cheer and Dance, Cheerstars, Epic Dance, Spirit Unlimited, VIP, and WSA. Teams that are looking to enter a performance recreation or traditional recreation division must ensure they are first eligible. Teams must have an appropriate affiliation with a YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, Park and Recreation Program, Community Youth Organization, or Pop Warner Association. Teams must be able to prove their relationship and affiliation with the organization. 50% of the team must have cheered for a sport with that association within the cheer season. Recreation programs must select to participate in the Performance Recreation Division or the Traditional Recreation Division. Levels 1 through 4 are offered in the Performance Recreation Division. Only levels 1 through 3 are offered as a Traditional Recreation Division. All teams from one program must choose to compete in either the Performance or Traditional Division. One team from a program cannot compete in the Performance Division, and another team from the same program compete in a Traditional Division. Programs that choose to compete in the Traditional Division can decide to switch later in the season and compete in the Performance Division. Once a program competes in the Performance Division, they are no longer eligible to compete in the Traditional Division. Any team that earns a U.S. Finals bid in the Traditional Division and chooses to compete in the Performance Division will forfeit their current bid and will have to earn a new bid to qualify for U.S. Finals as a Performance Recreation team. This year, coaches will find the same categories on the score sheet, but some of those categories will be scored by different judges. The building judge will be scoring stunts, pyramids, tosses, difficulty, and technique. The tumbling judge will be scoring standing tumbling, running tumbling, jump, difficulty, and technique. The overall judge will be scoring dance, routine composition, stunt creativity, pyramid creativity, and performance. All Performance Recreation Level 1 teams and Mini 2 teams will have a raw max score of 90 because they cannot perform tosses. Level 2 teams, with the exception of Mini 2 and levels 3 through 4, will be eligible for a max score of 100 points. Traditional recreation and competitive special athlete recreation teams have a raw max score of 80.5 points. Teams will receive a building, tumbling, and overall score. Those score sheets will be added up to determine the team's total raw score. That raw score will be converted to a percentage. The team's final score will be out of 100%. Any deductions or safety violations a team receives will be subtracted from the total to determine their final score. We will begin looking at how to earn a stunt difficulty score. Teams must perform level appropriate skills. Skills are determined to be level appropriate if they are first allowed by USASF rules document in a particular level. If the skill is not allowed in the level prior to it, then it will be counted for difficulty credit. Competitive special athlete recreation teams will receive level appropriate difficulty for competing any level 1 or level 2 skill by most. Some skills will receive credit if they are performed by most of the team. Looking at the right side of the screen, you will see a chart. First, you need to identify the number of athletes on the team. Then look to the column beside it to determine the minimum number of groups that must perform the skill to receive credit. That number of groups must perform the skill simultaneously or in a ripple to receive credit. Teams will receive a score from 3 to 5 points. Teams that perform 1, 2, or 3 level appropriate skills, only non-level appropriate skills, or multiple level appropriate skills, not by most, will receive a score from 3 to 3.5. Teams that have most perform a minimum of 4 level appropriate skills and no elite level appropriate skills will receive a score from 3.5 to 4. Teams that perform 1 elite skill and at least 3 level appropriate skills will earn a score from 4 to 4.5, and teams that have most perform 4 level appropriate skills with at least 2 being elite will score in the 4.5 to 5.0 range. Keep in mind that these requirements simply make a team eligible for the range. Once in the range, the judge will compare the team sequence to teams of the same level to determine their score. This system is a comparative scoring system. Performing additional level appropriate or elite level appropriate skills can raise your team within the range. Performing the sequence with less spaces or with quicker timing can also increase your score within the range. Traditional recreation and competitive special athlete recreation teams are only eligible to receive the highest score of a 4.0. These teams are not required to perform elite skills, but may if they want to. Here you will find a list of elite skills for the performance recreation teams. Each team must have most perform 2 elite skills along with 2 level appropriate skills to be eligible for the high range in their division. Pay attention to how the skills are beginning and landing. Some skills can land on 2 feet, some can land on 1 foot, and some must land in a body position. If the elite skill states that the skill can land in a one-leg stunt, then the flyer will receive credit if they land in a lib or other body position. If the elite skill states that the skill must land in a body position, then if a flyer lands in a lib, the skill will not count. A body position would be any time the working leg is away from the post leg. For example, a stretch, scale, arabesque, bow and arrow, scorpion, or chin-chin would be examples of this. EPIC will be following USASF legality judge training verbiage. Keeping in mind, for twisting, judges will be looking at the hips of the flyer at the bottom of the dip and the hips of the flyer at the end of the twist to determine the rotation. For inversions, judges will be looking to see if the flyer is inverted at the bottom of the dip. At the bottom of the dip, the flyer must have 1 foot above his or her head and shoulders below waist to count for an inverted transition. These stipulations are not new but need to be emphasized. They have been used for the past 2 seasons at EPIC events. Teams must follow these stipulations to receive elite credit. In level 1, 2, and 3, at the beginning of a tick-tock, no one can be holding under the foot in which the top person is switching onto in order for the skill to be given elite credit. It is acceptable for a baser spotter to be holding onto the ankle in order to ensure that rule stunts D is followed during the tick. When a top person is standing in a lib and someone is holding under the foot of the lifted leg, then the person is technically being supported by 2 feet. A tick goes from 1 foot to 1 foot. For levels 1 through 4, in order to receive elite credit for twisting skills, release twisting skills, and inverted twisting skills, the skill must be performed in continuous motion with the bases and the top person completing the skill simultaneously. Once the top person has landed at the final level, any additional walking by the bases will not be added on to determine the final degree of twisting. Legal skills that do not adhere to these stipulations will receive level appropriate credit instead of elite credit. Performance recreation teams will receive a stunt quantity score from 3.5 to 5.0. Teams that do stunt but do not perform any elite or level appropriate skills will receive a 3.5. Teams that only perform level appropriate skills will receive a 4, 4.2, or 4.4. Teams that perform an elite skill will receive a 4.6, 4.8, or 5.0. The numeric difference is determined based upon the number of groups that perform the skill. If you look at the chart on the right, you can see the number of stunt groups that must perform the skill based upon the number of athletes that are on the floor. The numbers were derived based off of having a base spotter, and top person. However, teams can achieve a quantity score by performing stunt skills using a single base, multi-base group, or multi-base group with front spot. At EPIC competitions, the number of bases spotters will not affect your quantity score, but it can affect your difficulty placement within the range. EPIC will be using the following building drivers to determine the technique score: stability and control, top person flexibility and technique, base positioning and technique, timing, and uniformity of stunts. Height will only be assessed during tosses, as stunt release skills are limited to the height in which they can legally go. Teams will receive a separate stunt, pyramid, and toss technique score ranging from 3.5 to 5. Judges will watch all skills performed in the routine and then assess a team's technique looking at the execution from a holistic approach. Teams in which most athletes are demonstrating below average execution, uniformity, stability, body position, and synchronization will receive a 3.5 to 4. Teams that demonstrate average technique will receive a 4 to 4.5, and teams that perform skills with above average technique will receive a 4.5 to 5.0. The building creativity range has changed this year. Teams will be receiving a 2 to 2.5 for stunt and pyramid creativity. These are 2 separate scores on the score sheet. Judges will be looking for unique sequences that use a variety of skills and transitions that result in a visual and/or unique sequence. Teams that are performing skills in which the top person continuously goes straight up and straight down, are performing repetitive skills, and the sequence is not visual in nature will receive a 2 to 2.3. Teams that do add innovative skills or sequencing to their routine will score in the 2.3 to 2.5 range. USASF definition of a pyramid is 2 or more connected stunts. The definition of stunt is any skill in which a top person is supported above the performance surface by one or more persons. A team cannot minimally score a 3.0 unless they have two top persons touching at some point during the routine. The 2.5 is reserved for teams who have a top person connected to a bracer standing on the ground. A team will only receive a 0 if they make no attempt to have a top person brace. A team will receive a 3 to 3.5 if they have two flyers or top persons brace within their routine. A team will receive a 3.5 to 4.0 if they have two level appropriate skills and at least two structures. A team will receive a 4 to 4.5 if they have three different level appropriate skills and two structures. A team will receive a 4.5 to 5.0 if they have four different level appropriate skills and at least two structures. The level appropriate skill only needs to be performed by one group to count. If the same skill is performed by multiple groups at the same time, they will still only get credit for one skill, but that can raise a team's score within the range. If a team does not perform two structures, they will be scored in the 3 to 3.5 range. Toss difficulty is not comparative. Teams will receive a flat score based upon the number of groups that do level appropriate tosses. Looking at the chart on the right, the coach needs to determine the number of tosses needed within the routine based upon the number of athletes on the floor. For example, if a team has 16 athletes, they only need to perform 2 tosses to receive majority credit. If you look at the toss difficulty chart, teams that have majority performed tosses will receive a 4.5 or 5.0. If a team decides to perform 2 tosses synchronized or rippled, will receive a 5.0. If the team decides to throw one toss in one section of the routine and throw the second toss in a later part of the routine, they will receive the 4.5. Teams will not get higher difficulty score for having more toss groups than majority. You can have more groups toss if you would like. Technique will be assessed on any group that performs a toss. Teams do not have to perform the same level appropriate skill if they are performing synchronized tosses and can still receive a 5.0. To determine the number of athletes that need to tumble to achieve majority or most credit, you will need to look at the chart. First, count the number of athletes that are performing. For example, a team of 10 athletes would need 5 passes for majority and 7 passes for most. The same chart is used for jumps. Jumps must be performed by most for credit. Notice, only performance recreation teams have a sync requirement. Teams must perform level appropriate passes for credit. Teams that tumble but do not perform level appropriate passes will receive a score in the 3.0 to 3.5 range. Performance recreation teams that have less than a majority perform a level appropriate pass will also score in the 3 to 3.5 range. To get into the 3.5 range, a team must have majority perform one level appropriate pass. They can choose to synchronize, ripple, or repeat passes to get into this range. Teams that have most of their team perform the same level appropriate pass, synchronized, are eligible for the 4 to 4.5 range. In order for teams to achieve a minimum of 4.5, they must also have most of their team perform the same level appropriate synchronized pass and a majority perform an additional level appropriate pass. That second pass can be the same skill as the first pass. It can also be synchronized, rippled, or recycled. These are the minimum requirements to get into the range. Teams that perform the skill by a greater number of athletes than what is required can score higher in the range, and teams that perform a harder skill set for the level can score higher within the range. Teams that are performing synchronized passes in comparison to recycling athletes can also score higher within the range. Remember, this is a comparative scoring system. Traditional recreation and competitive special athlete teams are not eligible to receive above a 4.0. They are not required to synchronize any pass but are allowed. They can achieve the range by recycling passes if they choose. There are no sync requirements for any division in running tumbling. All running tumbling passes throughout the routine will be added up to determine if the team has the appropriate number of level appropriate passes. Performance recreation teams that perform non-level appropriate skills will receive a score from 3 to 3.5. Teams that have less than a majority perform level appropriate passes will score in the 3.5 to 4.0 range. This includes teams that only perform one level appropriate pass. To get into the 4 to 4.5 range, teams must have a majority of the team perform a level appropriate pass. When most of the team performs a level appropriate pass, the team will score in the 4.5 to 5.0 range. Teams that can demonstrate a higher percentage of athlete participation or a harder skill set will score higher once in the range. traditional recreation, and competitive special athlete teams can receive the highest score of a 4.0. These teams, similar to performance recreation, only need one level appropriate pass to score in the 3.5 to 4.0 range. Most of the team needs to perform 3 connected advanced jumps or 2 advanced jumps plus an additional advanced jump someplace in the routine to receive a 5.0. The jump sequence should include 2 types of variety. Types of advanced jumps are a toe touch, pike, front or side hurdler on right or left leg, and a double 9. Jumps must be connected by a whip approach. Tiny and mini age teams do not have to connect jumps to be eligible for the 5.0. They can perform 3 separate advanced jumps with 2 types of variety to receive the 5.0. Teams that do not include the 2 types of variety will receive a score lower than 5. The highest score a traditional recreation team or competitive special athlete team can receive is a 4.5. Within those divisions, teams must perform 2 advanced jumps within the routine. They do not have to connect their jumps and can perform the same type of jump. Judges will be assessing jump and tumbling technique by looking at all of the skills performed throughout the routine. Judges will be looking for appropriate fluidity, power, and speed of the skills chosen to perform, body control within the pass and upon landing, timing, uniformity, and body positioning when tumbling. Is the athlete's core, arms, head, legs, chest, and toes in the appropriate place? Judges will be assessing height, control, flexibility, leg and hip placement, arm and chest placement, as well as synchronization as jump drivers. Teams that have most athletes demonstrate below average execution, uniformity, body positioning, synchronization, and power will score in the 3.5 to 4.0 range. Teams that demonstrate average execution will score in the 4 to 4.5 range, and teams in which most athletes demonstrate above average execution will score in the 4.5 to 5.0 range. Teams will receive a combined dance difficulty and technique score. Judges will be using the following drivers to assess a team's dance: body placement, position and alignment, sharpness and strength of movement, pace and intricacy of arm movement and footwork. They are looking for a variety of formations and level changes. Energy and confidence throughout the dance portion of the routine should be evident. Teams will receive a score from 9 to 10 for routine composition. Judges will be assessing the team's ability to demonstrate accurate spacing and seamless transitioning while incorporating visual and creative choreography. When thinking about the routine, here are some questions to help you reflect. Are your athletes running from one side of the floor to the other and crossing center, or are they a step or 2 away from their next position? Do your athletes walk to their next spot, or is there creative choreography that assists them with their transition? Is their spacing slightly off in stunts, jumps, synchronized tumbling, or are formations precise? Teams will receive a performance score from 9 to 10 points. Judges are looking for a team to display high levels of energy consistently throughout the routine. Athletes should exhibit the same excited, genuine facial expression at the beginning of the routine, and it should carry throughout the building and tumbling sequences. Judges will also be looking for appropriate athletic impression throughout the routine. Athletes should be performing the skill sets that are appropriate for their ability. Performance recreation, traditional recreation, and competitive special athlete recreation teams can find scoring rubrics, elite and level appropriate documents, and master score sheets at theepicbrands.com/scoring. If you have any scoring questions, please contact the Director of Scoring for the Epic Brands, Randy Orr, at randy@theepicbrands.com.